Normally, I don't take fight photos with the guys. Normally, I just go, all right, high five. And if they ask for it, I do it. In your particular case, I was like, I'm going to break my rule because it's your last one. So I was like, let's grab a photo together. And I looked around and I saw the first person in front of me and I just go like, hey man, do you mind getting this photo? And you go, that's my opponent. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't even look up at his face. I just go, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, I don't know if he speaks English. I don't know what his deal is. So he doesn't speak English. Perfect. Great. Even better. So I literally had my phone out like this, like, hey, you go, he's my opponent. And I go, what's this? What's up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. I hope you're in for a very, very long time here because I'm going to keep this guest here. We have a lot to talk about. He's been on the show. He's a favorite of us here at the Grappling Hour, and I'm very happy that he's rejoining us. But what I have to tell you is this. We have a lot to talk about, and we'll be taking some of the questions, or at least I hope getting answers to some of the things that you have been complaining about that I think you probably want to hear on this show. So we'll get to him in just a second. But before we do, a couple quick reminders. One, if you like this show and you want to support us, the best way to do it is to go on over to patreon.com/grappling hour. If you go there, you can see my interviews 30 days before anybody else. And you can also see extra bonus content, including our content that's not available anywhere else, which means you can see an installment of Roast Raf, a segment where people roast my competition footage, and my friend has actually seen me compete here, so he would be familiar with one of those, if not more. You can also check out our Road to ADCC, which I don't know we're going to do that one anymore, honestly, considering it might be the B show coming up very soon. You can also check out extra bonus episodes. Stuff goes there, so everything you like, and you can also pitch me what installments you'd like to see in the future. So go to patreon.com/grappling hour. If you want to get this merch, this Grappling Hour shirt, you can head on over to rafesparza.com/merch. It means a lot. It goes directly back into the show. And I have to say, Team Bernal was very nice. They have been very good in supporting us in that way. Your dad, you, so many of your friends and family supported the show. So that really does mean a lot. And I do appreciate that. So we'll come back to that in a second. Last but not least, you guys can also check us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of that sort of stuff. So if you are watching on YouTube and you don't know what you want to comment on, by the end of this installment, we will give you something to comment on in the comment section. So be advised, and you can follow us on our Discord, but you can also hear this episode on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All right, our guest. Well, you probably are familiar with his work. You've seen him a few times on this show. But what we don't know is we're sitting here with somebody who is now retired from MMA, and yet you don't have a gray hair in your hair. So trying to call you retired is an interesting thing. But let's welcome back to the show, one, Eddie Bernal. Eddie, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How's everything?
It's fine. It's fine. I just have to get up top and address the thing that made people shocked, upset, confused in many cases, more than anything, which was at the end of your fight at LXF, or Lights Out Xtreme Fighting. You announced that you were done with mixed martial arts. Now, you were how old again?
I am 25. I'll be 26 next month.
Great. So most people in their head, when they hear I'm retiring at 25, 26, can't compute that. So we should start up top, and then we'll go backwards and talk about how you got into this fight. And maybe that will help explain some of the other reasons why. But right up top, why are you stopping at the age of 25?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of thought went into it, and I never really planned on doing this a long time. And for me, it was always just, we'll try MMA out, we'll see how I do, and just the more that I did it, you fight on, I had 10 fights total. And, I just, when you go to these fights and you're in the locker room or whatever, the warm up room, and, each fight has like 11 each card has like 11 fights on it. So you're around a lot of fighters. And I'm sitting back there and I see a lot of these guys and you could just see like, this is like everything that they want, you know, this is all they do. Like, you know, they fought since they were little kids. I see them warming up and I'm just like, you know, they're like excited to be there. And of course there's nerves and things like that. But for me, I was like, these guys are just, I'm just not these guys, you know? And it's like, I love training. I love the sport, but it's just like competing. And again, I've always said it, but this is one of those sports where you really have to be all in to do it. And if your mind's anywhere else, it's just, you're going to run into somebody who's, you know, this is all they want to do. This is their plan. There's plan A and no plan B. And so I have a ton of respect for those guys. And I personally, I feel like I don't belong there right now. Now, I mean, I have other things that I want to put my energy towards. I put a lot of energy towards fighting, and I'm grateful for everything that it's done for me and all the lessons that I've learned and the people that I've met. But just for right now, I just don't think it's the time for me. So I don't really like saying the word retired because saying retired at 25 doesn't really sound right because it's like there's still a lot that I have to do. So I haven't used that word.
Well, you don't get a choice. When you stop fighting, you tend to use the phrase, he's retired from fighting. Now it's out of your hands. And I think to myself, like, I get what you're saying with that. Mm-hmm. It's just to the normal ear when you said you're going to stop fighting.
Right.
The biggest thing I saw was pushback. So I saw in the crowd, people were surprised. Mm-hmm. So how many people truly knew that was something that you were going to do that day?
Yeah. I mean, I told some people that I was thinking about it, but I think as far as people that knew, like really knew, I think it's probably, I mean, it can go on one hand. I told my girlfriend, Jen, was the one that really knew. I told my mom, I told my dad, and that was about it. I hinted to it to one of my best friends, Asa. But other than that, my coaches didn't know. I really didn't want to tell a lot of people because I didn't want them to worry. You know, me going into the cage like, oh man, like he doesn't really want to be there, you know? And it's like, it wasn't that. Like I trained really hard and the whole camp, I kind of had the idea that this was going to be it. And as it got closer and closer, I was like, yeah, it doesn't really feel like I belong here. You know, I feel like my energy belongs, I just need to put it somewhere else. And, you know, fighting is it's just a hard game, man. And it's, you really have to be all in order to get to have a good living on it. And I just don't love it that much to dedicate my whole life to it. And it just takes a long time to get really good at it and just have a solid career on it. And I'm just like, I think my energy could be better spent doing other things.
Was there ever a moment when perhaps you wouldn't have said that in the cage? Because things change when you get in there, mm-hmm. and everybody's articulation mm-hmm. somehow goes away. Yeah. So sometimes you go in thinking, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this. And then things change because maybe sometimes they don't ask you the right way. Mm-hmm. You don't get the words out the way you want. So was there ever an opportunity or a possibility rather that you might not have said what you said, and maybe you would have retired outside of the cage?
No, I felt like that was the best place to do it. And I felt like, if I did it anywhere else, people would really, I mean, people are still trying to convince me to keep going. And, but it's my choice. And I feel like if I said it there, it was like, that was the stamp. Like that's, I said it right there. Like I mean it here. And, especially after a win and, there's been a lot of times where, I mean, I feel like a lot of fighters have had this. I mean, I was watching the show Kingdom and there was a scene like this where he's like, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to go out there. And I've always kind of felt that in the back. It's like, man, I can't believe I'm going to go out there and fight in a cage in front of a bunch of people. And, and then afterwards, like, oh yeah, I could totally do that again. But it just, I didn't really feel that even afterwards. And so I was like, yeah, this is going to be the last one. I'm going to put a stamp on it and then, and we'll be good. So yeah, I feel like for the whole time, I didn't think about exactly what I was going to say because I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more from the heart. And so, but yeah, I knew I was gonna do it in there. Yeah.
I don't know that you've heard this, but you're a person that gets cheered a lot. I don't want to say that they were booing you, but I thought there was an element of shock that happened to people in that audience. Could you feel that inside of the cage? Could you feel people actively going like, wait, that doesn't make any sense, or like questioning even your decision, like, oh, he doesn't know, he just fought, he doesn't know what he's doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But really, when it comes down to it, to me, it's like I knew that was going to happen. And just like how when I started this, a lot of people had the opposite reaction. They were like, "No, why are you fighting? That's a terrible decision. What's wrong with you?" And my answer was, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And the same answer is, it holds true here. It's I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing it for me. And I just don't feel like it's not in me to do it anymore. And and when I first did it, I was like, just trust me, like, I promise I'm going to be fine. Like, just trust me. I'm working really hard. And same thing here. I just trust me. I'm going to be fine. I've got things, I've got plans. I'm going to be fine. And just you watch. So, but yeah, I knew that was going to happen, and I was ready for it.
I think people are at what could be referred to as almost the bargaining stage as they go through their elements of grief. So they're thinking like, nah, that's not true. He's got, you know what? He'll come back.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Is there a possibility you do come back? Because people to me were saying, is that door shut? And my own thought is, I've done enough interviews over the years to know sometimes I've shaken the hand of a friend and been like, and we're done. And then a year later I go, and we're doing an interview now for your next fight. So what are the odds I shake your hand at the end of this interview and that you would potentially be brought back?
I mean, I definitely not soon. I have a lot of things that I really want to put my energy towards and really want to like excel in. And I have a lot of goals that I want to go after and achieve. And so maybe once those goals are accomplished and I'm kind of in a good spot in life and I could really go back to putting all my energy towards training and I'm in a good spot. I will say this, I'm not going to stop training. I love jiu-jitsu. I just love training in general. And I love being in the gym, and it's always been that way. And even when I was fighting, it's just sometimes like it felt, like a job. And it's like, I never wanted this to be my job. I just wanted to be something that I did. And, so I guess when I get back to a spot in life when, I don't have to do it like as a job and I can just kind of do it as something I love again, maybe we can come back to it, maybe. But it's everything's gotta line up. So I won't say I'll shut the door completely, but when I do, it's gonna be on my terms. It's not gonna be because anybody convinces me. It's gonna be because I want to do it, and I feel like I'm in a good spot in life to do it. And so yeah, I'll probably just leave it at that.
I want this marked so that way, if you do come back, one, at the very least, I asked, okay? But number two, I'm not telling you what to do. Do what you want to do. Right. And there was a thing, as somebody who has interviewed you over the years, where I actually felt for you, I felt like you were free in that moment. Like I felt like you had this is like not a secret, but like something that you could tell people like, hey, this is how I felt about this for so long. And that while it's fun and entertaining and it's kind of like a roller coaster, journeys have ends. And what you were saying is this period is ending right now. And I think what people thought was, well, it seems like you haven't even hit your peak and that you have a natural ability for that. So one thing I heard was, somebody who was around said like, do you think it's because he came back from a loss, he had a win, he had another win, and it was like, why don't we go out here? When in actuality, they were thinking like, is that loss still affecting you? Or are you just at a point where it's like, you know what? I just don't feel like doing this.
Yeah. I mean, I never had the thought in my head that I would go undefeated in my career. That was never, something that I knew eventually like something like that would happen. And if you fight, solid guys, like that's going to happen. And I fought solid guys and, so I fought on some pretty cool shows. I fought on A1 and, I headlined a lot of, I headlined every show like as an amateur. So, and I fought on some cool places and, but it was just like, like that was good enough for me. And, I never, like I go into my, jiu-jitsu matches or competitions and stuff. And it's like, I don't fear losing, and it's like, obviously, you fear, getting hurt and things like that. But for me, it was mainly just like the stuff that I put like my family through, you know, that was really like the big thing, like seeing my mom and just seeing my family, like the look on their faces. And I know obviously they were concerned and they supported me throughout everything. But I knew it put them through a lot, and, you know, obviously put my body and my mental health and all that through a lot. But I felt like, you know, I really just don't, my heart's not in this enough to be putting myself through this. And I know it's not enough to put them through this. And so, you know, there's guys out here, it's their dream. And, but yeah, I mean, you know, I personally, like, I go back on that loss, and I think about it a lot. And, but I don't think, I don't regret anything I did at all in my career. I don't regret, you know, any of the things that happened. And that loss taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of like life lessons. And, you know, I think it made me a better, I just think it made me a better fighter. I think it made me a better instructor. I think it made me a better martial artist. And I think it helped me. It just improved my outlook on life in general. And, you know, I'm a kids coach, you know, at our gym. And, you know, a lot of those kids, they get worried about when they compete. Like, they worry about they're going to lose. And I was like, well, you guys all saw me lose. Right. And then, you know, I bounced back from it too. So it's like, you know, that's not going to happen to you, you know, so it's like, you know, you don't have to worry about that. But I was like, you guys don't look at me any differently than, you know, when I lost, you know. And it's like, you know, things happen, you bounce back from it. And I think that I feel like my career kind of had a little bit of everything. You know, I had 10 fights total, which is, you know, a good amount. And, you know, people that don't fight, they also don't understand like the mileage that your body takes, like just doing that. And it's not just the fights, but it's the training. And it's I missed out on a lot of things with my family. And, you know, it was just a lot of times where, you know, I remember where my whole family went on a vacation, you know, they were all like taking pictures and posting stuff. And I was at home and I was running, you know, and it was just like little things like that. And, you know, and if you love the sport, you don't mind that, or, you know, it doesn't affect you as much. It still affects you, but it doesn't affect you as much because, you know, like you're doing what you love. And for me, it was like, man, I'm missing out on all of this. Like, they're sipping margaritas on the beach and I'm over here like in the sauna, like pretending that I'm on the beach. Like, it's like, you know, and it's like, and I don't like, for what, you know? And so, but yeah, I mean, I just, I'm good with it. I'm at peace with it. I had wins I had a head kick knockout. I had a knockout with my hands, like two things I never thought I would ever do. And, you know, I had submission wins off my back, submission wins like off the top. It's like, I had hard, just, you know, I fought on UFC Fight Pass in front of, you know, Tony Ferguson and Uriah Faber and all these guys. And, you know, that's good enough for me. So I'm good with that.
Good for you. And I would say this. So everybody was so caught up in like, boo, we're losing in MMA. And then I heard you utter the words like, oh, but I want to focus more on jiu-jitsu. And there was me being like, oh, yay. So I'm like the one voice in that crowd that was like, yeah, that's cool. I'll take that, because you mentioned you're not going to be done training. You know, you went right back to going to train with your crew. And I thought that was awesome. But we're in need of exciting people in jiu-jitsu. And I've trained with you a bunch. I know what you're capable of. And I think that there is a good future for you there. So I have to ask, because my boss is over there. We're like, can we get him to do combat? And I was like, I don't know. So can I get you to do combat, or do you just want to try to succeed at jiu-jitsu?
I definitely won't rule it out. I've always been kind of intrigued by combat jiu-jitsu. I think it's like one of the things that one of the reasons why I started doing MMA was because I love jiu-jitsu so much. And I was like, man, it'd be really fun to like, or I'd be like in mount or something. And, you know, the guy would be like, just, you know, really cagey or something like that. And I'm like, I really wish I could just hit this motherfucker right now, like as hard as I could. Like, I really, like, that would just make my life so much easier. And so, you know, and that's kind of why I started doing MMA and just training it. And then I realized quickly when I got into the cage and I actually got in a position where I could hit someone, I'm like, okay, this doesn't actually feel as good as I thought it would. And being in the cage and feel like, you know, being in training is one thing, but being in the cage and being like, man, I really just hit that dude as hard as I could. And I feel kind of bad about it. Like, that's kind of when I first knew. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm not really built for this, you know? And you know, I mean, maybe one day I'd probably go into CJJ. I feel like that'd be kind of cool, but, yeah, well, I'll have to do a lot of training rounds on it. And, but right now I really want to focus on just grappling in general. Cause I've always thought about that when I was doing, MMA. I'm like, man, if I could just really focus in on just jiu-jitsu, like, I feel like I'd be really damn good. So, that's kind of that's the plan.
I feel like for me, because I have such a different side of you, like we don't train striking when we get together, we train jiu-jitsu, and watching how you like the science of it, I understand very quickly where you go, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do jiu-jitsu. And I go, oh, I know that side of you. Yeah, that does make a lot. Like that checks out to me, given how much we finish training and then we'll talk techniques. And you're so excited about that sharing of knowledge. And if I'm giving you notes or you're giving me advice, it's always like, yeah, this dude isn't trying to tell me like, hey man, if I was in MMA, I'd be doing this or this. Right. You're just purely saying like, yo, on the jiu-jitsu side, I love this. I was working on this. I saw this in a video and this is how I hit this. And to me, those are the makings of a guy that I go, yeah, we even really haven't seen you even scratch the surface in that element. And to me, I go, that's a cool journey to be on. And I don't know if you know this, but it's a good time to be involved in jiu-jitsu because now we're going from people not making money to some people getting very good opportunities, which I really do hope increases the visibility and the prices that people end up getting as a result of that. So you might have picked the right time to come in on the good side, one might say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like too with jiu-jitsu, it's like it's like there's not a lot of money to be made in MMA. Sure. I mean, for the most part, but in jiu-jitsu, it's like even less. But it's like I really, or at least right now, it's even less. But I don't really care. It's like I enjoy doing it. I enjoy, teaching people. I enjoy, like we talked about this before. Like we enjoy teaching. We enjoy like helping enhance that experience for other people. And it's like, fighting is like kind of the opposite. So it's like jiu-jitsu, you can go and you can kind of go as hard as you can, and afterwards you shake hands and and you're good for the most part. But fighting, it's like, I'll be doing like face-offs. I'm like, dude, I really got to punch this guy as hard as I can tomorrow night in front of a bunch of people. And it's like, this guy is just another guy just like me, and he's got a family. He's got, people that love him that are watching. And it's like, it's just like, I don't know. It wasn't me. And I see a lot of people like, they talk about like, oh yeah, I see him. Like, I'm just going to try to take his head off. I'm going to try to kill him. And it's like, I never once thought that, like not one time where it's like, I never thought like I'm trying to kill this guy. I'm like, if I could take him down and just like submit him. And then afterwards, like we both go home to our families and we're good. Like that would be great, and it's like, but jiu-jitsu definitely a lot. You could do it for a long time. You could definitely do it a lot longer, in your life, and you could do it to different degrees of intensity. And I totally agree. It's definitely a good time to get into it. And so, I'm excited to see what happens with all that in the future.
Because there was a large part of me that I saw you go out there, and I think what people may be hearing right now, and if they're piecing it together, they might have a better understanding that you put a human side that gets lost in the MMA fighting world, which is, oh, hey, this dude has a family. And we get so caught up in the spectacularity of it that it's like, take his head off, dude, kill that guy, do this, that, like common phrases that we say. And some people have to go there to do it. Yours was from the sports approach. Like you wanted to compete in a sport, in an athletic competition. Unfortunately, killing people is just as valid as a fight form in that world, because people are like, well, you got to go there to do that. People talk about that mentality of you just got to dial in, and that person can't have a face. You got to do what you need to do. And I feel like at least with jiu-jitsu, there is a little bit more of like, when people do get out of line, it just looks so silly. So you think to yourself like, yeah, dude, we might as well just shake hands because we're good here. I'm not trying to punch you out. There's no low blow. There's no dumb thing that happened here. At most, we have disagreements over an advantage or something silly.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times when I look at jiu-jitsu, I see it as more of like, okay, we're seeing who has better techniques, or who has a better game. Whereas fighting, it's like, it's just a lot more primal. It's just like, who's tougher or whatever, which, like, don't get me wrong. I love watching it. I'm a huge fan. And, but just like being in there is like, I never felt like I was able to put myself in there. And I was talking to my girlfriend, Jen, and like the day before the fight. And I was like, I was going through, this guy's Instagram like the day before, which I've never done. I was like, after I weighed in, and it's like, I'm going to go through his Instagram. And, like I knew he was from Ecuador, and And I was just going through and like, and it really just made it more like human than anything. And I was like, you know, this guy right here, he left his family in another country. He's out here training. He's fighting. Like he fought in March, and then he turned around right away and fought, you know, against me. And I'm coming off a knockout win like in 20 seconds, and he doesn't even care. And I was like, this dude like left everything to come fight in another country, and he's probably fighting for like peanuts. Like he probably doesn't have like, and I was just like, you know, and now I got to go out there and try to like, you know, like hurt him like really bad. And it's like, you know, I genuinely felt bad. And then obviously once you get there, it's different because, you know, he's trying to do the same thing to you, you know? And so I was able to put myself back in that frame of mind, but I just, yeah, I've always had a hard time with that. And, yeah, that human aspect of it. I know a lot of guys like they do a good job of like putting that out of their heads, you know, when they go in there. And I was just never really that good at that. So yeah,
it's smart to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, because it's something that you had to do 10 times. So you were able to do it and separate it when you needed to, but it's something that doesn't weigh on other people. And when it doesn't weigh on other people, they're either going to be fighters or sociopaths. Right. So, and sometimes both. I mean, John Jones, let's say anywhere. Yeah. I get to a point where I think for people, there is a strength in knowing what is best for yourself. And what made it so nice for me was I saw you embracing what makes you good and what keeps your humanity and what you need to hold on to. And I thought, okay, you're articulating it, and that's definitely a good thing. But I should add, I did almost ruin a moment for you and your opponent, because afterwards, and I don't do this often, but I should point this out. Thanks to Blake Troop. Blake Troop offered to have me be a guest at the last Lights Out Fighting. Now, I had nothing to do that day. And when Blake offered, he was like, well, do you want to come to the fights? It didn't cross my mind. I was just going to see my buddy Jake, who commentated on your fight. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I will. And I went there and I could actually drink. I was off duty for a change, and I got to enjoy your fight. And I did tell Blake a little bit later, I was like, I'm glad you did put that offer out, because I would have missed your last fight. And as somebody who has gotten to know you very well off all of this and outside of our worlds, I thought, man, I really would have kicked myself if I had just not been there for that moment, because there have been plenty of fights I've seen of yours via TV or somewhere else, or I've caught it later, or I've covered it. But I was like, no, I wanted to be there for that. That's really good. I'm glad that he insisted on that. Now, having said that, normally I don't take fight photos with the guys. Normally I just go, all right, high five. And if they ask for it, I do it. In your particular case, I was like, you know what? I'm going to break my rule because it's your last one. So I was like, let's grab a photo together. And I looked around and I saw the first person in front of me, and I just go like, hey man, do you mind getting this photo? And you go, that's my opponent. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't even look up at his face. I just go, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, I don't know if he speaks English. I don't know what his deal is. So he doesn't speak English. Perfect. Great. Even better. So I literally had my phone out like this, like, hey, and I go, you go, he's my opponent. And I go, what's this? So I felt so embarrassed because you would just have had to have had the like, hey man, much respect. Yeah. So even seeing you do that afterwards tells me the type of fighter that you try to uphold. Like in your mind, you've competed against him, you run into him after the fight's all said and done, and you have your, hey, we competed, best of luck to you, it was a tough fight, etc., and you leave. So what were you able to communicate to him before I ruined that moment?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something I always like try to do. If I'm, you know, if I get the chance to, is talk to my opponents after, even after I lost. I had pretty much the same thing. The opponent, the guy that just, you know, beat me, and I saw him watching the fights. He was watching the main event, and actually it was in the same exact spot where we were standing. To be weird, it was literally the same exact spot. But I'll touch on this last fight first to answer your question, then I'll go back. But yeah, I pretty much just told him, like, look, dude, I got a lot of respect for you. I know you're chasing your dream. You're doing what you want, or doing what you love. And I said, hey, if you ever need anywhere to train and you're in the area, you're in the Huntington Beach area, you have me on Instagram, you know, or you can find me on Instagram. I'm sure you have we've been tagged in the same stuff. So I was like, you just hit me up, and you're always more than welcome to come by and train. So like, I just wish you the best of luck. You were a very hard fight. Like I didn't want to like backhand, like, insult him or anything like that. But I was just like, you were much, much tougher than we anticipated. We watched like, I didn't tell him this, but we watched like a lot of his fights. I'm sure he knew that, but we watched a lot of his fights and we saw like his groundwork and we're like, oh yeah, we get to the ground. Like it's curtains. And just like a lot of the stuff that he was doing, I was like, okay, this guy, like he wasn't giving his back. He wasn't like, he was like hip escaping. He was doing all this, like the right things. And I just, I could tell he trained really hard. And I told him, I was like, your ground defense was, really good. And he like, his coach was like kind of translating for us on some of the stuff I couldn't articulate that well. And his coach kind of like hit him on the chest, like, see, like, yeah. So I might have gotten the coach a raise on that one, but yeah. But even like when I lost, I went out there and I saw my opponent was out there, with his coach, and he was watching. We were watching Payne Talbot fight actually, and I just told him, I was like, hey man, like I learned a lot of valuable lessons tonight. I go, hats off to you. You did a really good job, and just best of luck to you in the future. And he was, he's one of more of those like showman, fighters that kind of like likes to talk and stuff like that. And, but in this game, if you're going to go far, you kind of have to do that stuff. And that was the other thing that I could never really get myself to do, is kind of be like more of a showman or anything like that. It's just, I didn't like talking trash. I was never going to flip anybody the bird or anything like that. And I know kind of nowadays that's what they want to see. It's like, you gotta be knocking people out and you got to separate yourself. And it's just, I was never comfortable enough to do that. So to see somebody who was comfortable enough to do that and put themselves in that position, I have a lot of respect for that too. And a lot of people see it as like being cocky or whatever, but I just see it as a guy who's trying to set himself apart and trying to make it to the big show. And I can't hate on that. So I've always tried to, have those conversations with my opponents afterwards, like if they're available, just to know it's like, it's all respect, and in my second amateur fight, like I head kicked the guy and he was out for a while. And it's like, in the initial time, like you're pumped up, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I just did something like that. And then, you're sitting there and you're waiting for the guy to like, get up. And then it's like, you're looking around and you just see his entire, that guy brought a huge following with him too. And I was just looking at all their faces and it's like, I actually felt like shit, and I talked to him afterwards and, we had like good conversations afterwards, and I've talked to him since. And, he was a cool guy, and it's just, I didn't really like doing that to people. I didn't like hurting people, but having that conversation afterwards and just talking, to my opponent, but my first pro fight, Chase Whitmer, we talked a little bit after our fight, but when I had to go do medicals for my my first fight with Lights Out, so my third pro fight, I had to go do, I had to go to the doctors in Long Beach or whatever and do all the stuff you have to do for your, to be a fighter, pay much money and all that. So we're sitting there and we were, I walked in and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, dude, we fought. And he was like, what's up, dude? Like, we slapped hands and everything. And him and I had a war. And we were just like talking about it. Like, yeah, man, that fight was crazy. Like, he's like, I'll never forget that fight as long as I live, blah, blah, blah. And it was just cool to like talk to him. And it just, I think a lot of times when we're fighters and we do this, we just forget that these are other real people too, and it's nice to be able to have those conversations with people you share the cage with.
I mean, you're not always in charge if the person is going to be your friend or not after a fight. So it can be difficult at times to be like, hey, bud, we did a thing. We were there, especially if you beat the person. Right. You don't get to decide if they like you or not. But you are a very nice and like friendly human being outside of being a good fighter in the cage. So whenever that does happen, it is easier, I think, to make that connection. And it is cool when it does happen outside of that. But you did start mentioning the fight. So I think we should allude or at least talk a little bit about that. Tell me your interpretation of the fight. Because to me, it was, if we're talking about a final performance as a fighter in MMA, I thought you got to display a lot, but true to yourself, you came away after I'm congratulating you off air. And I was like, hey man, congrats. That's really dope. I'm really glad you went out on your terms and et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, I could have done this and this. And I was like, you need to go home. Like, you need to stop. You won the fight tonight. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you could have done, but it's your last one. Don't do whatever your brain is doing right now. Your friends and family is all right there. That's your win. So go there. So talk to me a little bit about how you interpreted that fight.
Yeah, no, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a decent performance. Thinking back on it after like pretty much what you just said, I was like, it kind of was a good fight to go out on because I kind of did show a little bit of everything. I showed, I definitely had some striking, especially in the later rounds when I was kind of able to find my range a little bit more. I showed some good wrestling. I had a double leg that I think was my favorite moment in the whole fight, and I had a lot of close submissions. I threw up a lot of close submissions. I had some good ground and pound. Like I pretty much did a little bit of everything in that fight. And, I was kind of able to keep the same pace like the whole time. And it was really like the first fight where I kind of really remembered like, oh yeah, in this position, I do this. In this position, I do this. Like I was pretty aware of everything that was happening. I never like kind of psyched myself out or panicked or anything. And I was doing a lot of stuff that I trained, which I thought was really good. It's just, the guy was really tough and he was able to fight out of a lot of submissions. And, I feel like I scrambled really well. I controlled well. I didn't really get controlled on the ground. I really didn't get hit all too much. So yeah, I mean, I can see why a lot of people thought it was a good performance. But for me, like when I train for finishes. I train for, there's a lot of those positions that I was in. I was in those positions a lot during training, and I finished my partners who were really, really good, really high level training partners, and even striking, I trained with a lot of good strikers, and I just felt like I could have looked better a little bit everywhere, and I feel like I should have gotten the finish in a lot of different positions, especially I think it was like in the second round when I had him in a rear naked choke. I just wasn't quite able to get my second hook in, and but no, I mean, yeah, it was okay, and I'm kind of more at peace with it now. But obviously,
shut up. I already know your voice well enough to be like, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm fine with it. It's fine. You're fine. It's fine. Everybody, I don't know why everybody's not fine with it. No, I know A, your competitiveness. B, I know one of the things that we share in different arenas is I'm very much a perfectionist at this stuff. We literally had to stop filming because I was like, I don't like the way this looks. Like we have our things that make us who we are. So what I like to do is to other people, when I recognize it in them, I like to be like, hey man, here's the perspective maybe you're not seeing. And in particular that night, I just thought, you don't need to do this. And you don't need to explain to me like you need to offer. Like I've seen enough fights and I've seen your fights. So I've seen a little bit of everything. I know what you can do. I could tell if this dude's not getting finished, especially once you get to mount. I was like, okay. Once I saw you go to mount, and I thought for a split second, you were kind of looking at a head and arm triangle for a split second. I just thought like the pressure you normally have is really good. You don't make big mistakes. And when you really hunker your base, it's hard to move you. And I think that's what your opponent found is maybe he was getting out of stuff. Maybe he was moving you a little bit, but it's exhausting. So I could see where he was running into issues with. But for me, I still thought it was a good fight. And there were a lot of times, I told you off air, the person I was watching it with was Albert. And it's so wild. I love watching fights with other fighters because I don't assume they'll make time for me. But he's very much a guy who we have a long history with. I've done interviews with him for years. He's kind of in that like OG status with us. And I thought it was so cool that he was like watching the fight with me and we're just kind of exchanging notes. And he's like, what do you think's happening right now? And I was like, man, if he gets him to the ground, like we're more than in business. Like he is going to swarm this dude with really, really solid jiu-jitsu. And I feel it's going to be hard for him to get him out of the way. And he was having the thing. And, Albert was giving you props for your hands. He was like, dude, he's getting some cracks in. So it was really cool to hear him give you props like that. And I know he's definitely supported you. I've seen him put up posts about you. And likewise, you've reposted and shared a lot of stuff for him. But I just enjoy that when good people are kind of matched up. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So to get to experience that with him was really fun. But he did this one thing where when he was looking at your jiu-jitsu, he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, I argue to say his jiu-jitsu is better than his hands. And I go, so after you make the announcement and everybody's like, what? I was like, my man wants to go to jiu-jitsu. Let him go to jiu-jitsu. So we had a nice discussion about that. What was the most difficult part of that fight for you? Because to me, for you to not put him away. spoke a lot about his preparation, his team, his resilience, because I knew those were some of your best positions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like right off the bat, I mean, I got to the clinch and I shot and I got him against the cage, and you know, it's kind of funny. I told you this off air, I told a lot of people this off air, but when I got to the cage first and I was going to the athletic commission or whatever, when they check you for weapons and knives and all that crap that they never find. So they're wiping me down. Like, oh yeah, like you got grease all over you. And I was like, okay, first of all, like, no, like I don't. Like I did have a good warm up in the back. Shout out to Tien, my 14-year-old ass kicker that just beats the shit out of me every day. But he got me a really good warm up, and I was sweating really good. Put my hoodie on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you got grease all over you." And they were physically wiping me down. It was one of the things I got questions about after the fight. But yeah, so they were wiping me down, and I was like, "You saying I'm greased up or whatever?" So anyway, I got into the cage, and then right away I got him against the cage, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I got it." You know, I got him against the cage pretty early. You know, you would think it's not as slippery, you know, because there's not a lot of sweat, but it just felt like. I told people, I'm like, he felt like a damn fish. Like it just, and so I'm in this position where it's like, you know, I've done enough fights where I know you don't want to like gas your arms out right away by squeezing too tight. But, you know, at the same time, you also want to hold your opponent there. So, you know, he was really, really slippery, and I'm sure he just got a really good warm up in as well. Like I'm not accusing him. I'm not going to Ryan accusing him of greasing or anything like that. But, yeah, you know, I just, that, and then in that first exchange, I actually didn't know what happened until I saw pictures afterwards, because I haven't gone back and rewatched the fight. I think it just went up like this week. But I think he like Uchima'd me or like wizard kicked me and like put me like on the ground, and I was like, what the hell? And then and I was like, I didn't see anything like that at all from any of his prior fights. And I was like, you know, that was pretty good. And I was still able to get on top and you know, control and all that. But I was like, yeah, he definitely he scrambled well. I thought he fought really well. When I was on top and I was in mount landing shots, he defended them well, and he kind of picked his time to explode out really well. Yeah, no, I just thought the way he, not only did he escape positions, but he kept going after he escaped. Like escaping wasn't enough for him. Like he tried to get up, he tried to like get all the way up to his feet. And so I thought like that was pretty tough. Like I thought he was going to get, you know, tired from exploding out so much. Like I don't know if it was the first round or the second round. Probably the second round, and I got him down. I went to half guard, and then I passed into side control. And I look up at the clock and just to see like how much time is left, and I said like 25 seconds, and I was like, okay, well, there's not really any point in like, because I was, you know, pretty winded because there was a lot of grappling in that fight. So I was kind of winded, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, ride this position out. Probably won this round, so and then we'll get back and get to it next round. And he was still exploding, trying to get out, and I was like, in my head, I was like, yeah, like keep doing that, like make yourself more tired, you know, like. So I'm like, obviously doesn't know how much time there is left, but he didn't care, you know, like even when he heard the 10-second clapper, he was still trying to get out, and he was just like a tough dude, and you know, it was. Yeah, I just think it was mainly that. Like he just didn't stop the whole time. And we knew he was gonna be tough, but I was like, damn, dude. Like I can't think about how many. I probably threw up maybe like 4 or 5 submissions, like good submissions, and you know, he fought out of all of them.
It's so funny that when I watched that fight live, I know some of your chains, so I was going through it too, and you know, I can get out of some of them. So I looked at them and I go, okay, he's got to do this to get out, and I go. Yeah, he's doing that to get out. Like I could recognize what he was doing because I've been in those same spots with him. So I was just like, oh, yeah, okay. This dude knows what's up. That's really cool on his part.
Yeah, I think it was for sure. I think it was one of the smartest fights that I've done. I think I fought pretty smart. The only one time that I kind of slipped up was when again, I believe it was the second round, but I had him kind of in a turtle position. And I attacked the Darce. Like it was a technique that I tried a lot, like during camp. And we went over Darces like 1 week, and I was like, oh my God, I like really love this submission. I got really good at slapping it on, like really, I just like quick. And I told my coach in the back, I was like, if I hit a Darce, like I'm gonna need a stripe on my belt, like for that, like please. And I was like, I'm not gonna force it, but And so I thought like in that moment, like, okay, I was right there and I heard my coach say, you know what to do. And I was like, oh yeah. So then, but I didn't set it up correctly. I didn't do it like how I did it during training. I just kind of got too excited and tried to slap it on, and his head slipped right out. And I don't know if they have mics in the cage or anywhere, but I definitely audibly yelled, "Oh fuck me!" And then I immediately wrestled up and got on top. So I mean, I've done that enough to where it didn't work, so I was still able to wrestle up and get on top.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought for sure I was gonna get a nice highlight Darce finish there, and I didn't get it. And I was like,
to be fair, you walked in today. You were talking about how you were working Darce's.
Yeah,
and it was like hint number one.
Yeah.
And then my man was trying you threw every entry into a Darce. And I was like, under no certain terms or conditions are you getting a Darce. But it's mostly because I had the playbook, at least on that one, where I was like, okay, great. And the worst was, I think that your overzealousness on going for a Darce at one point where I was not in a good position gave me a sweep. Because I go, oh, I know he's doing a Darce. And I think there was just a slight moment of you going like, this is my fault.
Yeah.
You know what? I deserve this one. And I go, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of like Dustin Poirier in that sense. We talk about him jumping gillies all the time, and he's like, I'm never gonna stop doing it. And I'm the same way. I'm sure there's gonna be some jiu-jitsu matches that I lose in the future because I go for a Darce and then I end up getting mounted or whatever. But you know what? I don't care. I'm going to get one and I'm going to get a nice one and it's going to be all over my Instagram and I don't care. So.
You know what? Listen, props to you. And Dustin is the right guy to go for on that one. It's hard not to like him and it's hard not to like you. So I could see how those two match up on that side. From our perspective, very fun fight. It was you, I think, showing a little bit of everything. We saw a little bit of your hands. We saw your control. We saw submission attempts. And more importantly, like even when it looked like some fighters would get frustrated there, they'd make openings for the person to come back in. It was constant pressure on your opponent. So I thought, okay, I wouldn't say I knew you were going to retire. I just, when we've talked about it on the show, off air, I've always thought it's a possibility. So somewhere in my brain, like I said, I was offered to come see this fight. I didn't put it together in that way, but it was after the fact that I was like, oh, I'm glad I went. But even with that in mind, I still thought, oh, there's maybe a couple more. We'll see. You're so young, you don't know. And maybe he doesn't know for sure. And then I heard your speech and I go, no, he knows what he wants. Okay. Then it's my hope that other people who are friends and family can accept it in a similar way or can kind of come to those terms. And that you have your option of choice so that if you do want to come down and do it again, that it's on your terms. Right. But in that time, who's to say that you don't find something else that you invest that passion? So you've alluded to this a couple times on other things you want to do. What are the other things that you want to do? Well,
I've always, one of the things I've always wanted to do for maybe not always, but since I started getting into jiu-jitsu and I started coaching a little bit, I was like, it'd be really, really nice to have my own gym one day. It would just be really nice to run a gym. I love coaching, and obviously there's a lot of things that go into, getting your own gym and things like that. And then I was presented with an opportunity to go into ownership with my gym that I'm at right now, Ace Jiu-Jitsu. And I love that place, and I've done so much for that place, but that place has done even more for me, and so I have the opportunity to really make a big difference there. And I always thought owning my own gym, it would take a long time, and it's I'm in a really good place now where I can go into ownership there, and it's a place that I love so much, and so I'm really looking forward to just becoming part owner there, putting all my focus there, and just kind of building it up better. And I have a lot of ideas and things that I want to help out with. And I know a lot of people there are very excited. My family's very excited. I'm very excited. So, I know it's tough that I'm not really going to be in the cage, but I potentially could produce, more people that will go in there and be a million times better than I ever was or ever could be. So, I'm really excited for that. Obviously, grappling, I'm really excited to just dedicate all my time to that as well, and just be there and just train alongside the people that I teach and people that I coach, and just kind of see us all kind of grow together, just get better together, and yeah, that's really the big thing for me that I feel like that the future holds for me.
I'm going to ask this and then I have a follow-up to it.
Okay.
But the first thing is, what is it going to take to get you on a grappling card? Like, where are you looking to go? Because I don't try to be rude when I'm on this. So if I'm ever responding or doing something on here, it has a purpose. I literally was on the phone and my guy sent me a note from Subversive and he goes, "Hey, December, what do you think?" And I go, "I'm talking to him now." Like, I don't know. We'll see. And he goes, "CJJ." And I was like, "It sounds more like BJJ." And he goes, "Okay, talk to him." And I was like, "I'm literally doing just that." So I'm getting that on my side. I'm selfish. Obviously, I'd want you to compete for us, but I'm not selfish enough that I wouldn't want you to compete for other people. So what kind of tournaments, or if you get those super fight opportunities, have you thought about where you'd like to kind of go and compete at?
Yeah, I actually back in February, I'd say of 2023, when they did the Gordon Ryan was supposed to fight Felipe Pena in Costa Mesa. We went to that, and we were sitting like right in the front, and I was like, this right here.
So you'd like a who's number one kind of deal,
or just like grappling like on a stage like that. Like that just sounds like amazing. So I would love to do like a fight card like that, or just like a fight card in general, where it's like, it's like a fight, but it's grappling. And I've been super fortunate where I've had a lot of people come and support me and things like that. But I've done it for me. And same thing with goes with grappling. It's like I would love to go on a stage like that. I don't care if there's 10 people there. I don't care how many people are there. I would just, that right there sounds like awesome to me. And so tournaments are great too. I just love grappling in general. It's something that I think is so fun. And yeah, I'm totally down to do a card like that. And December sounds kind of perfect, honestly.
Okay, we'll talk. Listen, I'm trying to get you on other cards so that you have other options.
Right.
But obviously, one of my favorite things to tell you is when you had gotten off stage, and you had said what it was. I was like, "Hey, bro, we'll talk about stuff in the future." I go, "But you always have a home on our cards. Like, if I have say, and I do in some way here," I was like, we can talk, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, all good, man. But I just know when you had mentioned those opportunities, it didn't just happen that day. We had talked about it as far back as like a year and a half ago, somewhere in there, where it was kind of like off air. We're talking, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I was thinking about doing one of those." And I go, "Oh, well, now I do that more." And you go, "Oh." And I go, yeah, you've got other stuff to do. And then we'll see from there. So it was definitely, it was very fun to see my boss look over it. And he's like, "Yeah, he fights well." And I was like, "Calm down. Let him go do what he needs to do first." Now, the follow-up that I have here, I don't know if you could figure out the linear version of where I'm going on this little claim that I was putting out. But I was like, where are you going to get your competition in? And I'm thinking the jiu-jitsu side. You are a competitive person. Where is that energy gonna go?
Yeah.
Because you have family members who do come on my show in the comment section and talk shit about you. And then they present it to me like I'm supposed to look at you and be like, "Yo, you got some stuff to fix out that way." Where is that energy gonna go if you're not fighting?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I know that we kind of have little friendly rivalries within the gym, and I don't mean people that I roll with. I mean with my coach, my main coach Asa. We play around with a lot of our students there in the kids class, and we go, all right, we call Coach Asa Big Ace, and you go, you're either team Big Ace or you're team Bernal. And so we have like, the students that I do private lessons with or whatever, and so we kind of have little competitions in that way. So we have like little mini like super fights in the gym. And a lot of the competition goes there, and it's a really fun environment to train, and a really fun environment to teach in. So I feel like I get a lot of my competitive energy out there. Okay. But as far as for me, yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I mean, you know me pretty well, so I'll find a way. I'll find a way to get competitive.
I'm sure you do. I just want it to be something that's healthy, because the last version of something you were very competitive at was where you punched people in the face, and then you realize, oh, maybe I don't like doing that. So whatever it is, it probably will be something fairly either it's active or it's intensity. So I don't know where that energy goes.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried figuring out. So when we do use the word retirement, we are using it well here, because when my dad retired, you know, he had done service for the city of LA. He had been in the army before that. My whole thing to him was, I was like, you've earned your retirement, old man. Like, figure out what you're going to do. And what he used to tell me was, he's like, son, I don't know what I want to do anymore. I don't know what I'm into. I don't know. I don't know who I am. And I go, okay, great. We'll figure it out. And what I noticed was, when I was in college, and just as he retired, he started like trying to grow facial hair. And I was like, are you doing that because I have facial hair? You can't do it. And like, it was like a Fu Manchu, like real light. And I go, Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. You do not have the gift of this. I have this. You do not. But I recognize, I go, oh, he's trying to find himself and do new things. So that's a real retired person. You're a fake retired person. And a fake retired person means that whatever board games you play might be more intense. Maybe your roles become slightly more enhanced for some of those special few. I just know that energy's got to go somewhere, and I don't know where it is yet. So I want you to start thinking about something. Even if it's like, yo, we got real down on Scrabble. I started doing Wordle. I'm real intense on that. I just want that energy to go somewhere, because even when we roll, we laughed at one point, because we're like, I was telling you, I was like, I don't know when the right time is to really start turning it up in a roll. Like, if you start cold, I don't know, especially if you're rolling for like an hour or so, which we'll do. I go, I don't know when it's supposed to be real.
Right.
Like, I almost feel like the first few minutes are just kind of like, hey, let's feel it out and let's roll.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just, nobody says a thing and it just goes more intense. And you go, oh, well, now we're playing for real.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question to you.
Yeah, no, I distinctly remember too, when I was in high school, and it was during summer wrestling, and we had Mark Munoz come in, who, anybody who has met Mark Munoz, I mean, he is just one of the nicest human beings like ever. And that was one of the things that he told us. He was like, you know, whether how far you go in wrestling or martial arts or whatever, he goes, just being like a genuine, like nice person is going to take you a lot further. And he said, just being like a nice person and just being like friendly people took me a lot further and opened more doors for me than fighting ever did. And that was something that I kind of, you know, I'm definitely not as nice as he is, or you know, or anything like that. But you know, that was a good message that I just thought that was outstanding. And I've seen like a lot of fighters, you know, they stopped, and guys like, you know, Paul Felder, guys like GSP, and you see them stop, and everyone's like, you know, or Khabib, you know, they're like, oh, they could have gone a lot further. They could have accomplished a lot more. But then you see like how they're living their life now, and it's like they're doing amazing. And then you see like some other fighters that just, they fought too long, and they fought longer than they probably planned to, and you're just like, you know, like they were really good. And then, you know, this happens, and it's like, you know, so I look at that and I'm like, well, who would I rather be, you know? And so, yeah, that's kind of what it came down to for me. And, but yeah, but that competitiveness, I do think about that, you know, especially like I'm watching UFC cards and I'm like, yeah, you know, like I know what that feels like. You know, I see these guys walk to the cage, I see them warming up in the back. It's like, you know, I know what that feels like. And, you know, it's kind of fun to like thinking about going through it. Like it's fun, but then like you actually get there, you pull up to the arena and you're sitting in the back for like 3 hours, and you're like, I really wish I was one of those people in the stands, like having a beer right now and not, you know, like giving a shit about anything. And so, but yeah, no, I'm definitely going to find a way to get that competitiveness out. And I mean, I always do. I feel like no matter what I do, there's always going to be some sort of, I could always be more competitive. So,
no, I know, but I'm trying to like help you find a healthy version of it.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
There's always a healthy version of it. It just depends on how intense you get, because I just don't know if you're going to be the guy who starts cooking things and you're like, man, I got to grill better than everybody else. And I go, okay, that sounds kind of healthy.
Oh, no, we're on our way there, actually.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we just got my girlfriend and I just got a smoker. So, and my buddy AJ and Asa, my coach Asa, actually, he's going to love that I mentioned this. He won like the Texas State barbecue competition. So, you know, I'm definitely gonna have to get some tips from him before I start doing anything. But I'm coming for that title. I want that. I'll fly to Texas and I'll do it. I don't care.
Wait,
so the more trophies, the more random trophies I have, the more random trophies I have, the better. I feel like my brother and I, Raymond, I'm sure you're watching this right now. So when I was in 8th grade, okay, so I went to middle school at this private school in Brea. It was like 30 kids in my class,
Okay.
and there was like a total of maybe like 3 of us that could speak Spanish, and I spoke Spanish like a lot better than I do now, but it came time for 8th grade awards, and I won the Spanish award, and I was like super hyped. And that I still know exactly where that trophy is right now. It's just like this little piece of shit plastic trophy. It just says like, so out of like 30 kids that only like 3 of them spoke Spanish, like I won the award. And I went to like the other 2 people that spoke Spanish, and I was like, yeah, you see that? And so my brother ended up winning it in high school. He won like at senior year, he won it in high school. So he holds that over me. And so we're always competitive about all kinds of little stuff like that. So,
but clearly not Spanish anymore if you're not that good at it anymore.
No, not anymore. I, after there's not really any more Spanish awards to win after high school. So I don't see the point, I can communicate well enough. We went to Cabo, I was able to order, and I was able to, talk a little bit to the taxi drivers, tell them where I was going. So, I spoke well enough, and so that's good enough for me. I mean, I'll get better at it for sure. I think it's nice having a language, but yeah,
I do love you saying like it's coming, something's coming. I don't even know what it is, because like to me, you have a slight edge on me in jiu-jitsu, so I have to concede that. I do feel though that at some point I'm going to be like, you need to play poker with me, young man.
Oh, I'll learn that.
You'll learn poker?
I've taken the steps to start learning it, because again, my buddy Asa, they play it all the time, and I kind of feel left out just watching. And so I've kind of learned the rules from him. Like, okay, I understand this now. So I was like, I'll practice this a little bit.
Yeah, but you know what? You're not competitive enough to take your money right now, so I can't do that. No. Okay, bowling.
We get the bumpers.
No. All right. I'm going to take your money on bowling too. Darts.
I haven't played darts like at all. So my dad though, I'll have my dad play against you.
You can't do that.
That's
not how that works.
No, it does.
I didn't say I was great at darts.
Where do you think my competitive comes from? My dad is just as competitive as I am.
I'm sure that's where it comes from.
Why do you think we sell so many tickets? My dad's like, I'm trying to sell more tickets than everybody else.
I understand that, but I'm not trying to compete against your old man. I have respect and I love your old man. That's fine. But you... like, I'm specifically asking what you're good at, because I want to help you in this retirement phase find another thing. And now I felt like this today. I thought about it genuinely while we were rolling. I was like, I think you're in that top 10 now. I think you're in that, like, okay, I think the moment that I realized was when I held back on trying to reap at one point. And I was like, oh man, I almost just reaped in the gi. And I don't know that that's the worst thing in the world, but like the fact that I had to stop myself, and that I don't think you would have cared, but that I had made that thing, is I was like, that's how much now I want to beat him at this, that I go, I almost broke one of those cardinal rules. So I was like, all right, he's in that realm.
Yeah.
But I also want to know what other things you like to compete at, because now I'm like, well, I don't train with you every day. So when we do see each other, I do like those ideas. I just want something that's a little bit more equal ground, because at least in jiu-jitsu, we both train it. So it kind of makes sense. Nobody has the edge there.
Right.
But when I keep coming up with these other games, I'm like, shuffleboard. Good?
I'm actually okay at shuffleboard.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. I'm all right. It's been a minute. Pool. Okay, I'm bad at pool.
I'm down.
That one I'm bad at. I would learn. I would probably go to some places to like shop up on that. What video games are you good at? Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're gonna work this out, because now that you're in retirement, I'm going to come up with some stuff so that maybe when we do these sorts of things in the future, because I think the misnomer here is this: when we were seeing you announce you were done with fighting, there was a part of me that went, we're not done doing these things. It's just going to change on what it is. And it's my hope that we can do them more for your grappling excellence in the future. And I guess in the event he does fight again, we've covered it. But I think that's a very far-fetched possibility. So now I'm looking for other fun things in the future for us to do, because, here's the worst part. I'm going to continue to get older and you're getting better at jiu-jitsu. And that really does suck as an old person. So we'll find something else to do. Having said that, I do want to tell you, because I did mention that you said something to me that made me cry laugh. Like, that's how funny it was. And it was so off brand for you, but you didn't remember what it was.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So here's the scene, everybody. I competed at a Naga and they put me in a division, the adult division, and it was my hope to compete in old people division. So 30 plus, 40 plus. Okay. They didn't have a 30 plus. I thought they did. I was hoping they did because I just wanted like one more match. And I thought, I don't want to show up for just one match. I at least want two. And they didn't have that 30-year-old show up. So somebody in that 30 to 39 range was like, nah, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So then they bumped me down to adult, but they didn't tell me. I went to that table and I was like, I'm not interested. And they're like, are you sure? And I go, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure? And that last "you sure" hit me like, you really a bitch? you gonna puss out of this? And I was like, wait, don't do that to me, dude. Like, and then I just thought logically, I was like, well, I paid for it. The problem is a very good fighter who is local was also in that bracket and the adult bracket. Now, here's the unfortunate part for him. He wanted somebody who's like him to go up against. And I'm now just magically in this division. I'm like, I shouldn't be going. This is a good black belt fighter, dude, with cardio for days. And I jumped into this at last minute. So I was like, all right, this is going to be terrible. I got walloped and it was rough. Okay. My man over here was watching me get walloped. And I went over to him and he knew I was in a different division as well. So I heard as I was getting submitted that I was being called out on another mat. And so that awkward moment when people don't know what to say when you've just gotten beat up. They're just kind of like, well, that happened, kind of conversation. And you said, do you have another match on mat 11?
Yeah, that's right.
You did. That was what you said. That's not what I heard. What I heard was, well, that was your 9/11.
Oh,
and I go,
that's right.
That doesn't sound like a joke he would do.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I just stopped and I go, yeah, I do have another match over there. And I couldn't think of anything else other than you saying, comparatively, that's how bad that match was for me. Right. And I just stopped in my tracks and I go, he's not wrong. It was really bad. But I'm so glad it's that funny that it's taking me out of this.
Yeah, no, I remember you texted me and you were like, did you say that? And I was like, whoa, what the hell? I was like, no, what the? I was like, no, dude. I said they were calling you on mat 11. Yeah, that's so, or we're going to mat 11 or something like that. Yeah, that is so.
That
funny.
was me just making
right.
sure. Because again, you are that competitive and you will talk trash.
Yeah.
But it was just so out of character for you to do that kind of trash where I go, he doesn't do dark humor like that.
Yeah.
That seems really weird. But if you did, I was like, I was going to be really proud of you because that's a really top tier joke. And the fact that it was so close made me on my way over when most people would be bummed and like, man, I just got beat up. I'm just laughing and thinking like, you know what? That's the perfect way to go to this. Like, I'm not even mad that happened. It just happened. And I think I've told this on the show as well, but the referee sent me a note afterwards and he was like, yo, dude, I didn't know that's what you were going to be up against.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Kind of like saying like, I was the one to talk you into that. And I'm like, you were. And he goes, but props to you, dude. And I was like, hey man, there's no real props. It's just, I don't regret doing it. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a silly thing that happens. And then you just go, you're going to deal with it. You go, yep, that did happen. Yeah. So I would tell you this though. Well, I will say this though. It's the only time I've been submitted in competition. So
yeah, that guy was
he's pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
I'll give him that props. Yeah. But he needs to come on the show. So I don't think you're watching this, JP, but I need you to be on this show, bro. At least so you can do one of the segments with us. Let's round third here. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to put the camera on you. I want you to thank your entire team. We'll open it up. We'll actually put it to whoever you wanted to thank on the mixed martial arts side. So it's obviously going to cover your team and your sponsors, but all the people who helped you on that mixed martial arts journey. So that camera right over there, sir, go ahead and take a look at it. It is all yours.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't even know where to start here. I have to thank my family, man. They, since the beginning, they all you guys all really supported me. I mean, my brother, my sister, my cousins, like I still have the picture from my very first amateur fight, you know, my mom, my dad. I mean, my mom, like, especially, I know she like hated me like doing this. I mean, she just like couldn't stand it, made her sick. Every single time I walked out, I just saw her like in complete tears. And, you know, so I know it was super tough on her. I know she was really happy when I brought up the idea that I was, you know, kind of wrapping it up. And, my dad, of course, I mean, you know, I was always worried that, you know, my dad just like wanted me to fight, you know, but the way he promoted it, and he made that very clear to me. Like, you know, you might think that I want you to fight because I'm promoting and I'm doing all this stuff. And he goes, I'm just like super proud. He goes, I don't like seeing you go in there. I'd rather watch the fights with you, you know, side by side. So dad, we're definitely gonna be doing that. I promise. But you know, he's like, you know, he knows fighters don't get paid very well, especially on the regional, you know, circuit like this. And so he was like, I know if you're going to go in there, I'm going to tell as many people as possible. I don't care. I don't care if they say no, but I'm going to get more yeses. He's like, I'm going to tell as many people as I can because I want you to get compensated. That's, if you're going to go in there, you're going to risk your health and you put all this work in for months. He goes, you are going to get compensated as much as possible. So, you know, I gave a thank you to my dad in the cage. I was like, you know, breaking down in tears. I couldn't even do it. But, I think everybody that knows me from fighting knows my dad, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So I appreciate him more than I could put into words, and I'm just very, very thankful for my dad. And I want to thank my girlfriend Jen. She's been amazing, and especially towards like the end of my career, especially through those tough like 135-pound weight cuts. She was always there, like. I mean, you know, the other thing people don't realize from fighting is how much laundry you have to do. I mean, like, especially if you're training like so much, like during the day, like there is a lot. And she was the best. I was like dead tired. I mean, like I really couldn't do a whole lot. And she was always like asking me what I needed, and definitely just made like my life a lot easier. So I love her very much. So thank you, Jen. You're amazing, and I'm just super thankful and super grateful for you for sticking up with me and putting through the hard times that came with fighting and sticking with me through my loss, and just helping me rise through it and just reminding me, you know how she was always telling me how much of a special person I am, and how she reminded me too, like if I, you know, that there's more to life than just fighting, and she really helped me like understand that, you know, this isn't really who I am. I don't need to be doing this. Like, do what makes you happy. So thank you. Of course, my sponsors, there was a lot of sponsors from the very beginning that stuck with me, you know, to the end. Some of the big ones were Nunez Embroidery. I mean, they did everything. They did my shorts. They did a gi for me. They did all kinds of stuff. So I really, really appreciate those guys. And we're not done yet because we're gonna make some Ace Jiu-Jitsu stuff, and it's gonna be damn good. But just, you know, everybody that's ever bought a ticket, bought a t-shirt, bought a hat, just use my promo code, like anything, all you guys. I mean, I never, ever, I always hated the word fans. I hated that word. Like, oh, you have so many fans. Like, to me, it just felt like, you know, and it sounds kind of like cringy and kind of corny to say like your friends, but it's like, I know them all. Like all those people that were there, it's like, you know, I mean, some of them towards the end, you know, I didn't really knew who they were. Like there was this one guy that showed up and like he walked like backstage. Like when I first got to the locker room, I just settled in. He was like, "Hey, I know you don't know me. I'm from Maryland or whatever." And he's like, "Can I please like take a picture with you?" And I'm like, just sat down trying to get like in the zone. And but I was like, I don't know who you are. I still don't, but I appreciate you too. So you know, I appreciate everybody, man. And I know I'm leaving, you know, some people out, but of course, like my coaches, Tim Cartmel, Asa Fuller, you know, my buddy AJ. None of this would be possible without my buddy AJ. He's the one that got me into grappling and all that. So right, wrestling, you know, I just in my high school, like my Coach Coates, Coach Clinton, all those guys that got me into wrestling. They built the foundation that led to me being, you know, a decent grappler and a you know, a good fighter. So I really appreciate all you guys, and these are all guys that they still support me to this day. And you know, just there's so many people that I can thank. And if I'm leaving anybody out, I promise I'll get to you personally, and I'll tell you thank you. But yeah, I mean, I just guys like Miyagi. I mean, I'm wearing his shirt. My first boxing coach, he passed away in December, and I always just wanted to make him proud. And my other boxing coach after him, Ray, and my coach Mitch, just like all you guys, that have helped me along the way. Even just anybody that's ever trained with me. Even if you don't train anymore, anybody that's contributed some sort of time. And last of all, I want to thank my students. All of my students that I train with, you guys have helped me so much more than I can even explain and put into words. Just coaching you guys has made me a better fighter. It's made me, really focus up on my technique. And you guys have just, I can't put into words how much you guys have helped me. So I know, a lot of time parents, they come to me and they thank me for the stuff that I do for their kids or whatever. And but I can't give back for how much that they've helped me. So my students, everybody, Ace Jiu-Jitsu, I love that place to death. I'm excited for what's to come. And so stay put, man. We got some big things coming. So thank you guys, everybody, so much. And thank you to you, Raph. Thank you, buddy. I like the interviews and all that stuff, that's helped me more than anything. So just thank you, man.
You've deserved it. I don't do this as a charity. I do it for people who I feel when I see their work, I think it merits discussion. And I think we can always learn from new people on the scene. And like the first fight I saw from you, I was photographing it and I thought you had some good stuff. And I remembered you being like, I broke a rib. And I'm like, well, dude, you could have fooled me. You had a great performance. And it was one of those ones that we went from, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this interview goes, to like, what? He seems like a good guy. I feel like we became friends, and that friendship extends outside of the interviews. It extends outside of fighting. So I'll always be rooting for you. And if we somehow get the opportunity to see you on our cards, that will be great. But if you don't, it's not going to be the end of our friendship. It is going to be something that I want to afford my friends opportunities where I feel it's appropriate. But I also want to see good things from you. So I'm super excited on the jiu-jitsu side. I do want to, before we wrap up, I want to ask, is there anything you're going to miss on the MMA side? Because everybody understands the weight cuts suck. Right. Everybody understands the laundry sucks. Everybody understands the pay can suck. There's a lot of stuff that does suck. But is there something on the MMA side that you kind of think like, man, I would miss that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see a lot of reasons why guys go into retirement and then they come out of retirement. Like I totally understand. But it's the rush that comes with hearing your music play sometimes. Sometimes they get it wrong.
I'll be honest, if they made it this deep into the interview, they should at least hear that part.
Yeah. But just hearing your music play and walk out and hearing all those people like, support you and just like go crazy. And, like that, I will miss that a little bit. And, like just seeing all the people there, like walking into the cage and be like, oh my God, that person's here. Or like this person's here, and, people that you wouldn't expect just because it's long drives or, things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to miss like, even those weights in the back, like just waiting backstage and seeing people warm up and, go out and they come back and they win. You're like, oh God, I hope I get that feeling tonight. It's like stuff like that, and, yeah, some of that I definitely will miss. And obviously like the feeling of winning a fight is such a crazy, crazy feeling. But I feel like I can get those thrills in other ways too. So, but yeah, definitely a lot of things about fighting that I'm going to miss. But I definitely think that's probably going to be it. That just waiting backstage, I mean, it's horrible. It sucks. But having that feeling of walking out and it's like, okay, like this is your time now. Like these people are here to watch you. Like that's a cool feeling, And even like afterwards, like we would go to Me and Ed's, and other people have to shout out Me and Ed's Pizza. They stood open like till like 1 a.m. So thank you guys. But just afterwards, like talking to everybody about the fight and just everything like that. Talking to all those people that supported me, and they show up to the venue at like 5 o'clock, and we're they're with me at me and Ed's till like 1 a.m. and it's
That's
like
dope.
yeah, super super cool. So yeah, I am gonna miss all that, and I'm gonna miss like putting on a show for people because I know I brought them a lot of entertainment. So I'm sorry, but there's a lot of fights. A lot
Well,
of
you
good
still got
up-and-coming
grappling that you
fighters.
can
Yes,
do.
yeah,
And we can definitely see you putting on a show for people in that regard.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's all is not lost here, people. It's
That's
just new opportunities. Let's see what happens there. And for the most part, I would say this. I would say to anybody who really wants to make recommendations to you on what to do, I think they should do so cautioned with this. I always consider myself as somebody who has an outside perspective. So I always say like, hey, here's what I see. If I think you should still be fighting, and you could, it's not really my place to tell you you have to fight, but it's my place to say like, hey man, you're still young enough. You still have this. I wouldn't be offended in the future, but that's your choice. And I think that's where people need to leave it. So what I'm going to leave it with you is do what is right for you. Like if grappling is the right side, great. If teaching is the right side, great. Whatever it is you're going to choose to do, nothing gets taken away from what did happen, but that you should be open to whatever opportunities sort of come your way. And it sounds like a few opportunities are opening up in the near future for you. So I would say be receptive to those things and find other ways to channel that passion, that knowledge, and that thing that you worked on all those years for MMA. Because if that was a side quest, it was a pretty fun side quest to kind of watch from the side. So thanks for making us part of it. And I will tell you this, nothing was better than seeing your family and your friends all get behind you. It was so nice. You went out of your way to come see me. And I was like, no, I'm specifically letting you have time with your family because I always know we'll do something like this. But to me, I was like, you will remember every person that was there for that last one. And I wanted you to soak that in. So when you came over to say hi to me, I was like, hey, bud, this is nice. Let's do this in a couple weeks. But I was very, very touched that you kind of went out of your way to say hi to me. And I thought, well, that's nice. But I will tell you this, that memory that you will have in that cage will never escape. And I think it's a really good closure. Like you and your dad in there, dope. I loved every second of that. So no matter what happens, you will have that core memory forever.
Yeah. I mean, again, I got into it. I was like, we'll see it, we'll see how we do. I mean, we were talking to my coach, Tim, the other day, and, my girlfriend, Jen, and I were, after training, we were talking to him, and he was like, I remember he came in, he was like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing MMA. And he was like, yeah, okay. You know how many guys I hear coming in here saying that, and to me, it was just like, there was a while where I thought about it. I was like, maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I'll just go get like a regular job, and then I was like, well, I don't want to be, hopefully, an old man one day and just sit back, thinking about like, I just don't want to look back and be like, man, I wonder what could have happened if I did that. I wonder what that would have felt like, or, watching these fights, man, I wonder what that feeling is like. It's like, now I know, and so I'm at peace with it. And, but yeah, big things ahead.
Good on you, man. Well, all right, guys, I'm going to do this by saying to my newfound poker nemesis, congratulations. You don't know how much money you'll be giving me in the future. It'll be great for you to see that. But very, very happy for you, man. And I think you did it the right way. I think if that is truly the close to that, I think that you will walk away with a lot of class and dignity, and more importantly, your health, man. So that to me was always a big premium to watch, my friends, because as you mentioned, it is very hard from the sidelines. And I think on the retirement side, if you felt it a certain way before, you'll probably feel it more for other people when you see them fighting, when you think potentially in your brain, maybe they shouldn't. So I think that you doing it like this is like, all right, that's dope. So, all right, well, we'll continue this off air. I appreciate you. I want to go over to my camera over this way. Just a couple quick reminders, like, comment, subscribe. If you are watching it this far in, I would appreciate it in the comment section if you drop us your favorite thing to compete at that is not jiu-jitsu, because we need some ideas here. This dude has no idea what he's doing in his retirement. And we need, like, Parcheesi, I don't think is going to work for him. I don't think, some of the board games I've heard stories about, so I don't want to sign him up to things that he won't really know how to be good at just yet. But that is in the near future. You guys can also go support us. Again, patreon.com/grappling hour. See our interviews 30 days before everybody else. And the extra premium content, Roast Raf, fight breakdowns, tape studies, all of that good stuff. We always try to give you guys some premium on what it is that we do here. So look out for that stuff. And we put up stuff all the time. Literally, I'm making stuff tomorrow for the next thing. So we got that. Last couple of reminders, like, comment, subscribe again, but also subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, all of those places. Please, if you can rate and review, I hear that helps. So it doesn't take much longer to do anything than yes, 5 stars, or yes, this show is nice. I like it. Raf is occasionally funny, whatever it is you want to put in the comment section. Usually it's very nice. So I appreciate that, you guys. And last but not least, join us on our Discord over at Grappling Hour. That's going to do it for us here, everybody. It has been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.